Hey guys, welcome to Punky's World. I'm going to make this video quick because I don't have a lot of battery, although I can bring this over here. Sorry guys. Alright, get out from under there. There we go. Okay. I'm going to bring this over here. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. There we go. There we go. Good. Okay. I have to give a pee sample. I already did my other sample. Excuse me. So I'm drinking, trying to make myself go, because when I went this morning, I had to poop at the same time, so I couldn't get the sample. So I'm working on it now. Just did a video over on Punky's Pro Wrestling talking about the WWE merger and the lawsuit, and talking about monopolies, because the person that actually offered the largest amount of money to purchase WWE was Tony Khan from AEW. And I was explaining why the FCC, the FTC would have to approve it as not being a monopoly. Technically it wouldn't be, because there's still independence, there's still tons in Japan, tons in England, or the United Kingdom I should say, and there's still TNA, which is technically, well no it is, it's separate. They have a working deal with WWE where they can funnel their talent back and forth, but they're still a separate entity, owned and operated separately. So So technically, you could do it. But they would have to go through to prove it's not a monopoly in the United States. It wouldn't matter that there's some in Japan or in the United Kingdom. The United States has laws against monopolization. Which is what I was explaining on the other channel, that's why AT&T got told that they couldn't be the only long distance game in town because of monopoly laws in this country. So they were told that they had to break up the monopoly. They had to allow other people who wanted to give long distance service in to do it. That's where Sprint came to be. Sprint was not a cellular company. They were a long distance company. Well before they were a cellular company. But most of the people around here didn't use Sprint because it was very expensive for long distance. I mean, AT&T is so old that its name is American Telephone and Telegraph. That's how old it is. So anyway, because back in the day, long distance was different. Because you had a landline phone, your phone was split into 3 separate things. it was local, or, you know, where you didn't pay for it. There was local long distance, which was less expensive than long distance, which meant like out of state. Um, but it was, you still paid extra. And I remember, as an example of local long distance, my cousin calling me because in his exchange, which is the first three numbers after your area code, is your exchange. And that's what determined what was local long distance for you. In his exchange, Uxbridge was considered local long distance for him. It was not for me. And we could call each other. So he called me and said, "Can you call Jay, the youth pastor, tell him this and call me back?" Yeah, because I can't call him. It's long distance. You know, local long distance. So I would have to call Jay and then call my cousin back. It was a telephone game, literally. And, but Jay understood it, you know. It's dumb. It's like, my cousin can call Worcester. He can call the city. But he can't call Uxbridge. I can call Uxbridge, but I can't call Worcester. You know, it was really dumb. Now, there is no local long distance. Especially with a cell phone. But even with a landline, there is no such thing as local long distance anymore. And if you have a landline, long distance is something you pay for as a package. You say, okay, I do call long distance, I call out of state, so I will pay you, you know, you give me a package that says long distance is included, which means I can actually make a call. Because if you don't have long distance included in your package, you can't even call long distance. It won't even go through. So you buy the package, and it's actually very inexpensive. It's way less expensive than back when you had long distance calls and you would look at your bill and each call would be laid out by the minutes and all of that. That all disappeared with these packages. And pretty much no one I know, well, my aide does have a landline, although she doesn't use it. Her husband uses it occasionally, and she will call him on it occasionally. But he has a cell phone. It's a flip phone, like my father used to have. But my mother never wanted to get rid of the landline. She and Diane had the same landline, which was, excuse me, the from the wireless company that did my mother's cell phone through Walmart, and it. The following Wednesday is the 16th, though, not the 17th. Well, the 2 weeks from then, sorry. Okay. Anyway. My nose is completely blocked. I need to blow it. But yeah, I wanted to explain that when talking about the wrestling as a potential monopoly, which has happened. The NWA was considered a monopoly, and there's a great book out there about the whole history of it. That I have on my tablet that explains how the U.S. went after them for being a monopoly and for the practice of blackballing, which is keeping someone from making a living in their chosen industry, their chosen profession. It's illegal in this country to do what they did in two ways. One, a monopoly is illegal. You know, when you learned about that in school, you learn about Mr. Johnson makes widgets for a price, and Mr. Thomas makes widgets for a price, and Mr. Jones comes in and decides he wants to make widgets for a price. It has to work that way. Mr. Johnson can't corner the market on widgets and say nobody else can make widgets. Only I can. It doesn't work that way. That's a monopoly, and it's illegal. The other part that was illegal was that, say these three men all make widgets, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Jones. They can't all get together and say, okay, Mr. Allen worked for me, he made widgets for me, don't let him make widgets for you or you. Okay, we won't. That's blackballing. You can't do that. And they were doing that as well. So they got into some trouble with federal government for that. Now, could you say Mr. Allen could go open his own widget business? Maybe. But they could also make it impossible, which was one of the problems in wrestling. If you tried to open up a wrestling promotion outside of the NWA, you were considered an outlaw, and wrestlers were told they'd be blackballed if they worked for you, a promoter outside. They didn't look like they were a monopoly because they were different promoters in different parts of the country that you could work for. However, they were all under the umbrella of the NWA. And they would all meet once a year and determine who the champion of the overall umbrella would be, and different other things. And they would have their own champions of their regions, but there was one champion of the umbrella. So, yeah, it was a sneaky way to be a monopoly, basically. So, my nose. Anyway, that was their sneaky way of not being a monopoly, even though they were. And they wouldn't. And they were very particular about who ran their territories. And when Art Gunkel passed away, he had a heart attack in the locker room with his guys. He ran Georgia, and he passed away. And his wife, Anne, said, I'm taking over the territory. And I worked hand in hand with my husband in this territory. I know this territory. And the NWA was like hell, a woman's taking over one of our territories. which was infuriating. Yes, I know. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. No, I don't want to cancel the appointment. It's not an employer drug test. Well, I guess they do employer drug testing there. It's just to remind me of my lab appointment. So at any rate, yeah, my nose is completely blocked. They didn't let her, so she opened up an Outlaw next door. And the guys were told that they would be blackballed if they worked for her. Well, the guys said, screw you. And they didn't end up being blackballed because a lot of the guys that they actually needed would work for Anne. Because they loved her. And so, and they couldn't afford to blackball them. So they didn't. Some of them did get blackballed if they could afford to. But there's also a great book about that. Headlaw. By a former wrestler who recently passed away the last few years. Shoot. Wilson. Anyway. It was a really good book. Headlocked or something like that. And he talked about those times. And so the NWA brought in Jim Barnett. I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry. Yuck. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna go try to do my sample, I think. And, he was controversial. So they had sent him to run NWA in Australia. They had a territory in Australia, at least one territory, probably more than one. And he was running that because he was so controversial. Partly because he was openly gay. In a time when that was not okay. Especially in a world like professional wrestling. I mean, yikes. And so there was a lot of controversy around Jim Barnett. So, you know, in terms of potential relationships with wrestlers in order for wrestlers to move ahead, things like that. He'd be a good one to do a Dark Side of the Ring on. if wrestlers would be willing to talk about what they knew, you know. Um, you know, did he get favors from wrestlers by offering them titles and things and pushes? I don't know. I can't tell you for 100% whether he did or he didn't. That's the rumor. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.